During a crowded royal event, tensions were rising when a royal guard became the target of public harassment. No one expected what happened next. Prince George stepped forward. His reaction wasn't rehearsed. It wasn't royal protocol. It was pure instinct. And when he acted, the entire crowd fell silent. The unexpected gesture at the 2025 Remembrance Day parade. It was supposed to be a solemn, precise, and predictably choreographed moment, Remembrance Day 2025, with the royal family lined up on the cenotaph balcony, observing the annual 2-minute silence. But this year, the silence broke differently. Not with sound, but with a feeling, and it came from the most unexpected place. 7-year-old Prince Louis. Dressed in ceremonial attire and standing beside his siblings, Louis was expected to follow the rules: stand still, look ahead, and remain formal. But as the national silence descended, he did something entirely unscripted. He closed his eyes, placed his hand gently over his chest, and bowed his head, deeply and emotionally, in a way that no one, not even his parents, anticipated. What made the moment hit harder was how still everything became after that. King Charles, who had been maintaining his usual ceremonial poise, was caught on camera visibly swallowing hard. His face changed, a flash of emotion before he caught himself and composed his expression. Queen Camilla, just feet away, was seen arching her brow and turning slightly toward Louis, clearly taken aback. Within seconds of the bow, viewers watching live on BBC and Sky News took to X, formerly Twitter, calling it the moment the monarchy remembered it had a heart. The clip spread in real time. Screenshots and slow-motion edits appeared across TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, showing not just Louis bowing, but the reactions around him. Stunned silence, blinking eyes, an entire royal line seemingly knocked off balance by a child's sincerity. Body language experts were quick to weigh in. One described it as a moment that shook the rhythm of the royal formation, not because of disobedience, but because authentic emotion had stepped into the frame. In a sea of ceremonial stiffness, Louis's bow stood out as deeply human. Royal commentators were stunned. This wasn't just a sweet child doing something innocent. It was a gesture full of meaning, done during the country's most emotional public tribute. It wasn't performative. It wasn't cute. It was reverent. It was mature. And above all, it was real. And it wasn't just the public reacting. Inside royal circles, whispers started almost immediately. Where had Louis learned this? Who had told him to bow like that? The answer, as it turned out, would come from within the family, and from a history that still lingers in their bones. Because Louis hadn't just bowed to honor the fallen, he had bowed into a memory, one that would trace directly back to Princess Diana. The hidden meaning behind Louis's bow. Behind the scenes, the answer to Louis's emotional gesture wasn't scripted. It was personal, and it started that very morning in the quiet of Kensington Palace. According to insiders, Louis had been curious and unusually reflective all week. He had just finished a school project on war heroes and remembrance. But that morning, something caught his attention. A framed photo of Princess Diana, kneeling and laying flowers at a memorial in 1993. He asked about her. Kate reportedly sat down with him and explained what she did, how she served, and why people still love her. The conversation, insiders say, stayed with him and lingered through the morning as he dressed and rode to Whitehall beside his siblings. William later shared with a close friend that Louis had also asked about Diana's funeral, particularly the image of William and Harry bowing their heads as the world watched. He'd seen it at school. It stuck with him, a source revealed. That moment, etched in public memory, resurfaced through a new generation, this time not as mourning, but as homage. When Louis bowed at the cenotaph, it wasn't a royal maneuver. It wasn't part of the script. It came from within, a child's response to a legacy that still lives inside palace walls and family hearts. Kate, later speaking to a friend, confirmed Louis had been emotional all week and had asked unusually deep questions. She described it as a moment of quiet understanding, where a child instinctively grasped the weight of grief, legacy, and respect. The comparison to Diana was immediate. Commentators couldn't ignore the striking similarity between Louis's bowed head and the image of William and Harry in 1997, walking behind their mother's coffin, faces down, silent and solemn. Side-by-side images were already circulating before the parade even ended. One royal aide summed it up simply: Louis channeled something none of us could have taught him. It wasn't performance. It was memory. Diana's memory. And that made the gesture hit even harder, not just for the public, but for William himself, who would be visibly shaken by what his son had just reminded him of, without saying a single word. William's silent reaction said it all. As the cameras lingered on Prince Louis's bowed head, another face told a story without saying a word. Prince William's. Standing a step behind his youngest son, William didn't follow the crowd's gaze toward the cenotaph. His eyes were fixed on Louis, not the monument. And in those few seconds, the weight of the moment crashed down on him, not as the Prince of Wales, but as Diana's son. Lip readers later captured a brief, almost whispered sentence from William's lips as he looked at Louis. Just like her. 2 words, quiet, raw, and filled with emotion. And from that moment on, the prince was no longer present as a polished public figure. He was somewhere else entirely. Insiders say William was noticeably withdrawn for the rest of the morning. He canceled 2 scheduled briefings and was seen leaving Clarence House early, after a lunch he barely touched. A staffer told the press off the record, he didn't speak for most of the meal. He just kept looking out the window. We all knew why. Because Louis's simple bow had done more than steal the spotlight. It had torn open a memory William had spent decades trying to manage. August 31st, 1997. The image of William, then 15, walking behind his mother's casket, remains burned into public memory. At the time, he didn't cry. He didn't speak. He just walked and bowed, quietly, stoically, just like Louis. Sources close to William say he later told a friend, I felt a wave of grief I hadn't expected. I saw her, in him. What made it more intense was the fact that it came from Louis, the youngest, the freest, the one often known for playful antics. For such gravity to come from him without prompting revealed something William wasn't prepared for: how deeply Diana's legacy lives in his children, especially the one he least expected it from. And while the public celebrated the emotional maturity of Louis's gesture, William felt the echo of a loss that never truly goes away. This wasn't a royal ceremony anymore. It had become a family moment. A mother's memory reborn through the instinct of a grandson she never met, but somehow always guided. Kate's emotional breakdown behind the balcony. As the royal family stepped away from public view after the remembrance ceremony, Princess Kate slipped into a private side room and broke down. She was seen wiping tears, her expression tight and overwhelmed. It wasn't a show. It wasn't planned. It was a mother feeling the full emotional impact of her child's instinct. According to a palace aide, Kate turned to Camilla shortly afterward and said softly, "That was more than a bow. That was Diana speaking through Louis." Camilla reportedly offered a tight smile, but the room stayed tense. Sources close to Kate later revealed that she had been showing Louis home videos of Diana over the past month. The children had been asking more questions, especially Louis. And Kate, always conscious of the legacy they were born into, decided it was time. "They deserve to know who she was," she told a friend. "Not just the headlines, the heart." Louis had been responding deeply, they said. He'd asked about her work with AIDS patients, about her walking through minefields, and most recently, about why people cried when they talked about her. For Kate, the Remembrance Day bow was the moment all of it came together. She had wanted her children to understand compassion. What she didn't expect was for that understanding to show up so powerfully and so publicly. One longtime royal insider said that was the moment Kate saw all her efforts to preserve Diana's legacy reflected back in her son's eyes. It also marked a quiet turning point for Kate herself. For years, she had played the role of modern royal, composed, careful, always appropriate. But behind the scenes, she had been building something deeper, a royal identity for her children that embraced not just duty, but feeling. Now, the world had seen the first glimpse of that, and Kate's tears were not of sadness, but of recognition. Her son had listened. Her son had felt. And in doing so, he'd brought Diana back in a way no adult ever could. Camilla's private fury over being overshadowed. While the public was embracing Prince Louis's emotional bow as a historic royal moment, not everyone inside the palace felt the same. Queen Camilla, who stood just meters away during the Remembrance Day ceremony, reportedly left the event furious and frustrated. According to multiple palace insiders, Camilla felt the gesture had derailed the dignity of the day and privately called it a distraction from protocol. She believed the spotlight should have remained on the event, the fallen, and the unity of the royal family, not a dramatic gesture from a child. She was livid, one source admitted. She said, "We don't raise martyrs in this family, we raise monarchs." Camilla's words may have been blunt, but they weren't without layers. Her anger wasn't just about Louis. It was about what he represented, and the power of an emotional connection that she's never truly been able to capture with the public. Since marrying King Charles, Camilla has struggled with comparisons to Diana. No matter how hard she works, or how carefully she curates her role as Queen Consort, the late Princess of Wales's ghost continues to haunt her every move. And Louis, unintentionally, just reawakened that shadow. Behind closed doors, tensions reportedly flared between Camilla and Kate. An exchange described as tense but controlled took place after the ceremony, where Camilla allegedly accused Kate of encouraging drama in public moments. Kate, emotional but composed, responded by simply saying, "He acted from his heart." The situation has reignited long simmering friction between the two women. Sources say Camilla has never fully approved of how Kate handles her children's public image, especially when it leans into emotional openness. Past disagreements over tiara access, photography control, and joint appearances have created a cold but civil distance. And now, this moment, one that was so clearly embraced by the people, has left Camilla feeling even more sidelined. She knows she'll never be Diana, a former courtier said. But now she's realizing she may not be able to outshine Diana's grandchildren either. The comparisons were everywhere. Newspapers ran headlines calling Louis Diana's heir in spirit. Social media buzzed with quotes like, "The queen they lost lives on in the prince they're watching grow." For Camilla, who has spent years trying to cement her place in royal history, this was yet another reminder that some hearts can't be won by time or title. And some moments, like a child's bow, can shift public sentiment in ways no speech ever could. Charles, caught off guard, then publicly defends Louis. If Camilla's reaction was frustration, King Charles's was something else entirely: conflicted vulnerability. At first, during the remembrance ceremony, Charles was clearly caught off guard. Cameras captured him mid-step as he turned toward Louis, his face stiffening, his hand momentarily frozen by his side. That image, one of the king visibly shaken, was replayed across every major news outlet within hours. According to palace staff, Charles had no prior warning of what Louis would do. "It took the air out of him," one insider said. "For a split second you saw a grandfather, not a king." But what followed was even more telling. During his post-event speech, delivered with his usual formality, Charles broke script just slightly. Looking directly at the camera, he said, "Even the youngest among us feel the weight of duty." The line was not in the original speech draft, according to aides. To the public, it was a subtle but powerful nod to Louis, and within minutes, media outlets were quoting it as a defense of his grandson's actions. The king, known for his traditionalist leanings, had acknowledged the emotional intelligence of a child in front of millions. But privately, the moment stirred up emotions Charles rarely shows. Behind the scenes, he reportedly told William, "He reminded me of your mother." Those close to the king say he appeared pensive and withdrawn for the remainder of the day, skipping a scheduled reception at Clarence House that evening. The weight of the comment wasn't lost on anyone. For decades, Charles has carried the burden of how Diana was remembered, and how his own role in her story has been perceived. Publicly, he's moved on. But emotionally, it's clear her shadow still lingers. The fact that Louis could, without even realizing it, bring Diana's presence back in such a powerful way may have left Charles feeling both proud and uneasy. Proud of his grandson's grace, uneasy about the comparisons already flooding the press. He's spent years trying to manage Diana's memory, one royal observer noted. But in that moment, Louis blew it wide open again. And this time, Charles couldn't push it aside. Not with the world watching, not with the next generation stepping forward, not with ceremony, but with feeling. Because even the king now sees it. The future of the monarchy may not belong to the most polished or the most poised. It may belong to the most human. Social media eruption. Diana lives through Louis. Within minutes of the Remembrance Day broadcast ending, the internet had already crowned the moment. Prince Louis's emotional bow didn't just trend, it exploded. Social media platforms from TikTok to X, formerly Twitter, were flooded with clips, images, and emotional reactions that transformed a quiet gesture into a full-blown cultural moment. The hashtag #DianaLives surged to the top of trending lists within an hour. By nightfall, the clip of Louis bowing at the cenotaph had amassed over 14 million views, with one side-by-side edit comparing Louis's posture to Diana's 1993 memorial moment, garnering over 3 million likes on Instagram alone. TikTok creators stitched footage of Diana comforting AIDS patients with Louis's bow, adding captions like, "Compassion skips a generation, but never disappears. Commenters flooded videos with remarks like, "She's back, and she came through him," and "The monarchy was reborn in that bow." Even celebrities chimed in. Piers Morgan called it the most moving moment of the royal calendar, while Lorraine Kelly teared up live on air, saying, "That's Diana's grandson, there's no doubt." On her podcast, Meghan Markle alluded to the moment without naming names, simply saying, "There are times when a child tells the truth better than any adult." But it wasn't just sentiment. It was symbolism. Royal historians and analysts called it the most symbolic gesture from a royal child since Prince Harry walked behind Diana's coffin in 1997. The side-by-side comparisons came fast. Louis's bowed head, William's look of quiet pain, Kate's tearful eyes, all placed against the black and white stills from Diana's funeral. It wasn't forced. It was visceral. People felt it. Across generations. In group chats, classrooms, parenting groups, and pubs, the same phrase echoed, "That boy gets it." The digital eruption wasn't just admiration, it was a reawakening. Diana's memory, which had faded into anniversaries and documentaries, suddenly felt alive again. And through Louis, a boy she never met, her presence returned to the global stage with staggering emotional force. Even critics of the monarchy paused. For one moment, there was no debate about relevance or cost. Just a shared experience, a rare universal breath of feeling. And it all came from a 7-year-old who wasn't trying to impress anyone. He was just bowing. Historic echoes. Louis mirrors past royal children. The comparisons came quickly, and they were impossible to ignore. In Prince Louis's quiet bow, many saw reflections of royal children before him, especially those who carried the weight of grief on their small shoulders. First came the parallel to Prince Harry in 1997, walking in solemn silence behind Diana's coffin. Then, to Princess Charlotte, whose composure at Queen Elizabeth II's funeral in 2022 stunned the public and media alike. But Louis's moment was different. It wasn't prompted by protocol. It was born of instinct, and that made it historic. Royal watchers began calling Louis the spiritual heir to Diana's empathy, with some columnists even suggesting he had captured the public's heart more deeply in a single gesture than some royals had in decades of service. In contrast to his usual public image, the cheeky, unpredictable youngest child, Louis was suddenly being described as thoughtful, intuitive, and emotionally aware. His evolution from playful prankster to the quiet heart of a national ceremony was a transformation that stunned even seasoned royal correspondents. He went from covering his ears at parades to making the nation cry, one BBC reporter noted. That's not just growing up. That's presence. And this moment wasn't just about Louis himself. It reignited a larger debate about the role of royal children in public life. Should they be more visible? Should they be allowed emotional expression in formal events? Should the monarchy evolve to embrace authenticity over appearance? Many said yes, because Louis, unintentionally, made a compelling case for change. In a single moment of raw emotion, he showed that the next generation might not just wear the crown, they might earn the people's trust in new ways. He didn't wave, he didn't smile, he didn't recite a line. He bowed his head, and in doing so, he reminded everyone what it really means to serve. William and Kate, now redefining their children's role. What began as a simple, heartfelt gesture from a child may now be shaping the very foundation of how the next generation of royals are being raised. Prince Louis's bow at the Remembrance Day ceremony wasn't just a moment. It became a message and William and Kate heard it loud and clear. In the days following the event, palace aides revealed that the Prince and Princess of Wales held several private discussions about how their children would engage with public life moving forward. The conclusion? It was time for a change. An insider close to the family said, "They realized that the public doesn't want perfection. They want presence. They want real, and their children are capable of giving that in their own way." For years, William and Kate followed a cautious path when it came to their children's public exposure. Prince George was carefully introduced at key moments. Charlotte was gradually eased into public duties, and Louis was often kept in the background due to his age and spirited personality. But now, everything is shifting. Sources confirmed that Louis will begin attending more ceremonial events, not just as a formality, but as part of a deeper process, helping him grow into his role with heart. The Waleses are embracing the idea that the monarchy's future lies in emotional intelligence just as much as tradition, and that their children should embody both. This change is deeply personal for Kate. She's long been a believer in nurturing emotional awareness and empathy in her children, often through quiet moments at home, storytelling, and family history. Following the ceremony, it's been reported that she has begun working with royal aides on what's being informally referred to as a legacy curriculum. This initiative will include stories of Princess Diana, Queen Elizabeth II, and other royal women who led through compassion, not just command. The goal, according to one aide, is to ensure that George, Charlotte, and Louis understand the weight of their legacy, not just in titles, but in human connection. William, too, is leading with renewed purpose. He's said to have reflected on his own upbringing, which was marked by rigidity, media pressure, and emotional silence. Louis's bow triggered something in him, a realization that his children might just heal some of what the last generation carried. And while this approach may seem softer, it's not less serious. In fact, it may be the most strategic move yet. Because the Wales children are no longer being raised to fit the institution. They're being raised to reshape it. And Louis, unintentionally, just became the first to show how. A royal turning point the palace didn't expect. The Remembrance Day ceremony was supposed to be predictable. Somber music, polished appearances, and tightly rehearsed silence. But Prince Louis's single bow changed all of that, creating what many now consider a turning point the palace never saw coming. It was brief, wordless, barely even noticed in real time. And yet, it shook the foundations of royal tradition in ways no speech or scandal ever could. Because it wasn't planned. It wasn't part of an agenda. It was real, and the world felt it. Royal commentators have since described it as a watershed moment, comparing it to Prince Harry's walk behind Diana's coffin or the Queen's televised address after Princess Diana's death. It wasn't a photo op, one broadcaster said. It was a glimpse into a soul shaped by the ghost of Diana. And while it stirred emotion in millions, it also forced the palace into reflection. Sources close to King Charles revealed that he has now begun reevaluating how much public visibility younger royals should have, especially those who naturally connect with people. The traditional rulebook, one that stressed restraint, minimalism, and stoicism, is being quietly questioned. More significantly, ceremonial protocols are under review. Aides have reportedly proposed allowing younger royals to show age-appropriate emotional expression at certain events, breaking away from the cold, blank-faced composure that has defined the monarchy for decades. And while nothing official has been confirmed, the internal buzz is clear. Louis may have sparked the start of something new. Publicly, the response has been overwhelmingly in favor of that shift. Polls show a growing desire for the monarchy to reflect the people, not just in image, but in emotion. And Louis, without trying, has become a symbol of that hope. There's now real talk among royal watchers and insiders. Could Prince Louis become the most beloved royal of his generation? Could the boy once known for covering his ears and making faces become the emotional heart of the royal family? Time will tell. But one thing is certain: the monarchy was not prepared for the impact of that bow. They couldn't have scripted it, and they can't undo it. Because in that moment, the crown didn't speak, the child did. And in doing so, he reminded everyone that the future of the monarchy may not lie in gold or titles, but in grace, presence, and the power of one honest gesture. In just a few seconds, Prince George proved he's not just learning the crown, he's learning character. His bold yet respectful move reminded everyone that true leadership starts young. As cameras rolled and jaws dropped, one thing became clear. This future king isn't waiting for his moment. He's already stepping into it.